Hey there, how you doing? It's Phil Thatch, and today I'm at Harrison Bay State Park. I got kind of a late start this morning. I stayed up way too late watching a football game last night, past my bedtime, so I didn't get out as early as I like to. I like to get out right at sunrise, but I almost didn't come out. But I've only got one more day with my borrowed 50 to 250 OM system lens, the continuous 2.8 internally zooming, just awesome. Gives you a 100 to 400 millimeter full frame equivalent, which is completely awesome, especially at f2.8. And I'm also borrowing the 1.4 extender, which I'm not sure if you can see it. It's so small, but it's the little black piece in between the camera body and the lens. So that gives me let me see if I get the math right on this, 140 to 560 full frame equivalent at f4, continuous f4. And this thing is light as a feather. It's small. Look how little it is. I mean, I can make it look big if I do that, but it's little. And I came out this morning, and Harrison Bay State Park, which is where I'm at right now, is really close to my house. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to ride around Harrison Bay State Park. It's an overcast day, and I'm going to leave the extender on the whole time and shoot this thing at f4 with a maximum focal length of 560. And I came driving in, and a lot of times you see deer um, here, especially in the morning. Later in the day, they kind of bed down and you don't see them as much. But the first thing I saw was a deer on the side of the road, a little bit into the foliage. And I still had the camera set for bird eye detect, and I didn't switch it. I just started making pictures of that deer, and it locked in right on the eye of that deer. And one thing I thought was really cool, if the deer's head was faced this way, it would be locking on the nearest eye, which is what you want. But if the deer turned its head this way, it would switch eyes to the nearest eye, which is what you want. Some cameras I've used don't do that. They'll just stay on the eye that they were on. As a matter of fact, I have a button programmed on my Nikon Z8 to switch eyes. So that tells you that it's sometimes necessary. But on this camera, it kind of automatically switched to the nearest eye. And I'm not sure if it's a well-known thing, but it's known to me that you want to focus on the eye, but not just any eye. You want to focus on the nearest eye. So let's take a look at some really close-up headshots I made with the 50 to 200 on the OM System Mark II and the 1.4 teleconverter. Okay, here is the first deer shot. Look how up close I am to the deer. And I think you can see the road and maybe even my car reflected in her eye. This is 210 millimeters. It's the only photograph in this entire video where I didn't run it all the way out to 280, which 280 is where you are when you're at 200 with a 1.4 extender on your lens. And every picture in this video will be wide open at f4, which is if you have a 2.8 lens and you have a 1.4 converter on it, f4 is wide open. So this is 1/160th of a second in ISO 640. I really like the quality of the out of focus background. It has a nice look to it, not all jaggedy like some lenses will give you in the background, just a beautiful softness to it. So that's really nice with this lens and the OM System OM-1 Mark II. Here's my next photograph of that same deer, but now I've zoomed in all the way to 280 millimeters, so 560 millimeters full frame equivalent. Just a beautiful little deer, and she was in the woods, but just a little bit. I could easily see her from the road. And I love the way the hair looks inside the ear of these white-tailed deers. Just beautiful white hair, all kind of growing towards the middle. Kind of neat looking. And this one is 280 millimeters, 1/160th of a second, wide open at f4 and ISO 640. Here's another shot of the same deer with the exact same settings, and you can definitely see my car in the eye reflection here. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just a beautiful little deer right on the side of the road. It's nice to be able to go to Harrison Bay State Park, which is not far from my house, and you can almost always see deer in the morning. It's 4 or 5 days until Halloween, and some of these campers have really done a nice job decorating their campsite for the holiday. That's pretty cool. Then I rolled around through the park some more. I shot the deer shots, by the way, from the driver's seat of the car, and I rolled around through the park some more, and I came down to this little kind of it's a big cul-de-sac, but it's kind of got water on both sides and an island on the other side, but this time of year you can walk across to the island because the water's down. But a lot of times I'll see a great blue heron fishing there, and sure enough, there was a great blue heron out there, and I got this camera down really low. I walked up right to the edge of the water and put the camera down on a rock. So I was just a couple of inches above the water and made some photographs of the great blue heron. Some of them are kind of interesting, I think. Let's take a look. So here's the first shot I decided to share with you of the great blue heron. I made several, and it's a long way away, so it's very small in the frame, even though I'm at 280 millimeters. I'm at 1/160th of a second for this shot, wide open at f4, and my ISO is 80, so I'm in the extended range of the camera. I probably should have used more shutter speed, but there's no motion blur in this, so it looks good. And I was making this shot, and I could see out of the corner of my eye that there was 2 pair of mallards swimming in the direction of the great blue heron. Also, I want to point out this feather right here looks kind of cool, out of place, just beautiful. And the mallards were swimming towards the great blue heron, so I kept shooting, and I thought, well, I'll get the great blue herons with the mallards in the foreground. And as the mallards were getting close, I heard a noise, and it was a bass boat that was just flying up the lake. And I ended up getting the mallards and the bass boat and the great blue heron all in the same shot. This one is also 280 millimeters, but I have increased my shutter speed to 1/400th of a second, and I'm still wide open at f4, and now my ISO is a perfect 200, which is the lowest ISO in the native range on the OM-1 Mark II. But I love the 2 pairs of mallards. You got a male and a female here and a male and a female here. The great blue heron, who hasn't moved a bit, it's still concentrating on fishing. And then this guy just blasting his way across the lake in his bass boat. Look at the spray coming off that thing. The spray actually continues way out of frame, but I wanted the bird to be pretty large in the frame, so I didn't zoom back at all. And he is beautifully bokeh-fied there in the background, and the trees across the lake have fall color. Just, this shot is interesting to me, and I hope you like it as much as I do. The next bird I saw in that same area, and while I was out of the car, I didn't see it at first, I just heard it. I heard the drumming of a woodpecker, and I looked around until I found it, and it was a downy woodpecker, male, and I got a couple of shots of it. Not sure how good these will be, but I definitely got a shot or two. So here's the male downy woodpecker, and it was pecking away on this. Heather thinks it might be a seed pod. I'm not sure what this thing is, but it was pecking away on it. And as a matter of fact, when it would stop pecking, see this? This is a piece that it has flipped out, and it's flying through the air. This is 280 millimeters. I'm at 1/200th of a second, wide open at f4, and this is 640 ISO. And here's another shot of the same bird on the same perch, and you can see here's another piece of something flying through the air that it has just finished pecking its way out of there. This is 280 millimeters, 1/200th of a second, f4, and 800 ISO. And I also want to point out the quality of the bokeh balls here in the background, as well as the beautiful quality of the out of focus. The in focus stuff looks really nice, and the out of focus stuff looks really nice. I usually don't like the look of a teleconverter on a lens. I think it really degrades, but this lens must be extra, extra great when there's no teleconverter on it, because it still looks very, very good, even with the teleconverter. And also, while I was out of the car, I found a tufted titmouse, which is a bird that comes to my bird feeders at home pretty regularly, but it's even funner to get a photograph of one just walking around on a trail. And so let's take a look at the tufted titmouse with the 50 to 200 2.8 with the extender installed. Here's a beautiful little tufted titmouse. It was deep in the thicket, and I had to kind of choose my spot to stand so I didn't have too much in the foreground. And really, there's not much blocking the foreground except for this branch, and there is something slightly blocking the feet here. But just a beautiful example of a tufted titmouse. I wish the crest was pointing straight up like they sometimes do. You can actually see some little water droplets on it. This is 280 millimeters, 1/200th of a second, wide open at f4, and the ISO landed at 800 on this one. As usual, I'm shooting manual shutter speed, manual aperture, and automatic ISO, and controlling the exposure with exposure compensation. Next, I went driving around near the dog park and I found a spot to kind of park on the side of the road and just kind of wait for some birds to come up. I'll show it to you right now. This little spot is awesome. I'm driving around the loop near the dog park here, and there's this little brush pile with some vegetation to the left of it. I've seen lots and lots of birds here. Carolina wren, northern cardinal, northern mockingbird. But the best shot I got here was of a blue jay. I'm not even sure I got a decent shot of those others, but the blue jay is a larger bird than those others, and I got a pretty good shot of it. Here's the first bird in that little thicket that I saw, and this is the bird that I saw that made me stop, and I never did get a really good picture of it, but I thought I would share this photograph with you. It's just kind of buried behind a bunch of thicketness and brush. It's a northern mockingbird, and this is 280 millimeters, 1/200th of a second, wide open at f4 and ISO 320. The next bird I saw in that same spot, the car didn't move at all for these next several pictures. The next bird was a beautiful Carolina wren with its characteristic tail pointing up like most wrens do a lot of times. Small in the frame, but just beautiful. This is 280 millimeters. I've increased my shutter speed to 1/250th of a second. This is wide open at f4 and 500 ISO. The next bird I saw was this female northern cardinal. Not really happy with this photograph, but I thought I would share all the birds I saw in this one spot. Her crest is up, but it's hiding behind this leaf, so that's kind of disappointing to me. This is 280 millimeters, 1/250th of a second, wide open at f4, and the ISO landed on 640. My favorite bird that came to visit while I was parked near this little thicket was this blue jay. And blue jays are very smart birds, and they're difficult, for me at least, to get close enough to make a photograph. So anytime I get a photograph of a blue jay, I'm really happy. They're kind of super smart, kind of related to crows, which are also often difficult to get close enough to make a good shot unless they're really tame. This is 280 millimeters, 1/250th of a second, wide open at f4 and 640 ISO. And I have another shot of the same bird on the same perch. Just beautiful. This one's looking the other direction and has the exact same settings. 280 millimeters, 1/250th, wide open at f4 and 640 ISO. I'm always thrilled to get a photograph of a beautiful blue jay. So I dread having to send this lens back. I've really enjoyed using it while OM System has let me borrow it and use on my own personal OM-1 Mark II. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you have enjoyed I guess this is the third video I've made with this. If you enjoy this content, reach down and hit thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. And as always, I hope to see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.